and she became known to our community as Little Miss Panasoffkee. This case has been a mystery in Sumter County for almost 55 years. Today, Little Miss Panasoffkee finally has a name. She has been identified as Maureen Minor Rowan, also known to her friends and family as Cookie. Although this is still an active investigation, we have identified a person of interest, her estranged husband, Charles Emery Rowan Sr., also known as Emery. And I just want to take a moment to say how proud I am of the men and women of the Sumter County Sheriff's Office who have demonstrated unwavering dedication to this investigation. This case stands as a powerful reminder of why we never give up. To Cookie's family, Cookie has never been forgotten. I hope this gets you closer to finding the closure you need and helps provide some answers that you never had. I'm now going to turn it over to our Criminal Investigations Captain, John Galvin. He is over our Criminal Investigations Division. He has been overseeing the investigation and will give you more details on how we came to identify Cookie. But on a little side note, you see the pictures and stuff up here. Actually, Captain Galvin's father was Captain Galvin back then when this case originated, and it's kind of neat that he gets to carry on this legacy and make this identification today. So this time I'm going to turn it over to Captain Galvin, and he's going to give you some more details. Thank you. Still on.
Thank you, Sheriff Reed. It's a surreal feeling standing before you today. As Sheriff Breeden told you, my father worked on this case alongside past sheriffs Jamie Adams and Bill Farmer. I grew up with this case, and I'm grateful to be able to honor their legacies by helping to finally bring the name to perhaps our most well-known cold case victim, Little Miss Panasoffkee. Cookie, as she was known to her friends and family, was born Maureen Minor, later marrying and taking the name of Maureen Rowan. She was born in Maine in March of 1949, and today she would have been 76 years old. She was a sister and the mother of 2 young children. She was estranged from her husband Emery, who we will talk about in a minute. At or around the time of her murder, her last known address was in Tampa at 1206 Windermere Way. She would have been 21 years old at the time. On February 19th, 1971, Cookie's then unidentified body was discovered in the water underneath the northbound lane of the Panasoffkee Bridge on Interstate 75. She was found with a men's leather belt wrapped around her neck and a section of carpet covering her body. At autopsy, they were able to obtain fingerprints. However, the prints were not good quality, and this was due to the advanced state of decomposition. It was estimated at that time that her body had been submerged in the water for 30 days or more. Her murder remained unsolved, and in 1986, then Sheriff Jamie Adams had her remains exhumed for forensic analysis. Part of that analysis yielded the composite image you see here in the middle. On October 14th, 1992, the case was featured on the popular television show Unsolved Mysteries. That episode yielded a lot of calls, but none of those tips ever named Cookie. What we have recently learned is that someone that knew Cookie saw the segment and thought it could have been her, but no one ever called. Numerous reviews of the fingerprints were compared and submitted with the last submission going directly to the FBI in Quantico, Virginia in 2006. This submission at that time was approximately 35 years after her body was discovered. Over the years, the case would be reviewed by detectives and cold case teams. The fingerprints would be analyzed anytime a missing female came into question. In 2012, isotope testing was conducted on her remains, and that yielded the lead that she was potentially from Greece. Then in 2018, we began exploring genetic genealogy after it was used to identify the Golden State Killer in California. And since that time, we've partnered with numerous labs in the effort to build a genetic profile, but none of those lab tests were ever able to build a profile viable enough to pursue her genealogy. It's suspected that the embalming gel commonly used in the early 1970s contributed to a degradation of her DNA and inhibited the profile process. That same degradation of DNA potentially impacted the isotope testing that had suggested she was from Greece. Then in February of this year, we went operational with our first in-house biometric fingerprint system. This system is the IDEMIA Storm ABIS, which stands for Automated Biometric Identification System. And it enables state-of-the-art fingerprint searches of millions of records. And to complement our new system, we employ one of the best latent print examiners in the state of Florida. And when our inspector assigned to Little Miss Panasoffkee approached her about a one-to-one comparison on another missing person for comparison, she decided to also run the old prints originally obtained from Little Miss Panasoffkee at autopsy. That query through Storm ultimately helped to identify Maureen Cookie Rowan as our murder victim. The Storm system had triggered a hit on a 1970 arrest from Hillsborough County, Florida, in which Cookie had been charged with passing a worthless check. What we now know is the fingerprint submission from that arrest had not been uploaded to FDLE's fingerprint database until 2013, some 43 years later. Just to emphasize how the Storm system sets itself apart, this past Monday we assisted a neighboring agency with a fingerprint query through Storm after the requesting agency's own system did not reveal any potential suspects. Our Storm system was able to identify a suspect in that unrelated case. I tell you that to tell you this: without our Storm system, we likely would still not know the identity of Little Miss Panasoffkee. So since October 1st, when our identification was made, our detectives have traveled throughout the state of Florida and state of Georgia conducting interviews and fact-finding. We've learned that Cookie's marriage to Charles Emery Rowan was tumultuous and that just prior to her death, they had separated. Emery's actions and behavior leading up to the separation and continuing after the discovery of Cookie's body are suspicious enough to list him as a person of interest, but not rising to the level that we want to identify him officially as a suspect. We have asked our media partners here today to help us in reaching out to anyone that knew Cookie or Emery. We know that they had ties to Gainesville, Jacksonville, and Tampa, Florida, as well as Enigma, Georgia. We ask that if you knew them at all, please call us on our tip line at 352-569-1915, or you can email us at sumtertips@sumtercountysheriff.org. And as always, if you prefer to remain anonymous and be eligible for a reward, you can call Crime Line at 1-800-423-TIPS. And at this time, I'd like to turn this over to State Attorney Bill Gladson, who has a few words for us.
Thank you, Captain Galvin. Good morning, everybody. What you just heard is the dedication and perseverance of the most professional law enforcement agency that we've got. 54 years, never giving up. You know, when I talk about the role law enforcement plays in our community, it's mostly about public safety. But another component of that is closure for families for victims. And what you saw here was perseverance and dedication and a commitment to solve a crime so that surviving family members could get closure in a case. And that is so important, and it speaks to the dedication of all the employees at the Sheriff's Office under the leadership of Sheriff Breeden. So I just It's an incredible opportunity to stand here with people that are so dedicated to keeping you safe and doing their job, keeping Florida safe. So, thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you. And as Mr. Gladson said, we're dedicated to serving justice and finding closure for our victims. But at this time, Captain Galvin, I believe we're going to open it up to questions. So any questions you may have, we're going to try to answer those and add some clarity to some of the stuff that we talked about today. So.
Where do things, obviously you're reaching out to us to get the word out about this, but kind of operationally, what